Welcome back to Dum-Dums and Dragons, where improvisers who've never roleplayed before journey into the world of Dungeons and Dragons. I am the Grand Wizard Bukake, your host. Our heroes have entered the adamantine mine. Juniper checked in with the future king to see if he had a plan once victory was assured. Butthole convinced her to have faith. Quinny confirmed the details of the plan with Reginald, and the group flew across a gap into the mine. What terrifying creatures await them in the darkness beyond? Find out next on Dum-Dums and Dragons.
Dum-Dums, you've arrived at the mines that connect through to Aka. You are in a lot of ways on the threshold. Unfortunately, the reports you've received are that these mines be full of monsters, which of course makes them a slightly more awkward entry point. Monsters scary enough that the people taking shelter here would rather face the zombie hordes than the monsters themselves. From the outside, you found a small entryway carved into the side of kind of a hill that had been tucked away, had clearly at some point been buried, but has been excavated and broken into. Around the mouth of this large, heavy stone arch, you can see, and think of this really as the sort of support beam style. It's not like a beautiful stone arch with, a keystone and other things. This really is like flat slab, two-side slabs, like what you would see with wood at the entranceway to a mine. About a foot thick stone. Entryway's been cracked and shattered. There are branches and other things that have been kind of piled up and around, and there are belongings from the ill-fated campers who had sought refuge here, kind of scattered around. You can also see some dried blood now that you're up closer. There's like a bloody smeared handprint along one side. There's some lost crossbow bolts that almost look like someone fumbled some. So not that they fired something, hit it and bounced off, but just kind of scattered haphazardly around. It's not like they made camp outside the mouth of this, but you can see the sorts of things that you would likely lose in beating a hasty retreat, just kind of out and around.
All right. Hey, Reginald, I kind of remember from our little body swap escapade that when I was you and you were me, I could relive events or see things or know things if I touched an object. Do you think it would be appropriate for you to try and pop one of those off right now with this weird campsite detritus and that fucking bloodstain on the wall?
Yeah, it's hard for me to argue that would be a bad idea. This is a very good idea. Everybody shut up. I have to do a thing. He's already back to his normal self inside. But yes, he would like to use Grim Psychometry, Tom. It is one of his abilities. Cool. So he can take a history check to recall information about dark objects I'm touching or dark places I'm present in. The info focuses on the darker aspects of the history and can convey images or history I wasn't previously aware of on higher rolls.
Let's kick it.
That is a 22.
Cool. So, Reginald, you're immediately struck by the fact that this place doesn't feel that dark. So there's enough in this campsite, obviously, or not the campsite. There's enough detritus and things left over from the campsite that you can get a sense of that, and that absolutely has the dark psychometry vibe. Mm-hmm. But it's not. You're not getting the oppressive weight that you would expect. I think.
The mine isn't evil. The mine is just a mine. However,
there you go. Yeah,
he'd go over to definitely handle the blood to see if he can get any specific history 100%. Off of that.
Yep. So as you touch the blood, you're struck in kind of the Frodo putting on the ring, gray shadows, Arkham video game recreation. Well, shut up, whatever. It's cool. It's literary. Struck by kind of shadowy recollection of just sort of a group of like an orc and 2 humans and a gnome wearing furs and looking pretty rough, worse for the wear. And you kind of feel them brush past you in a mad sprint. One of them turns around dramatically with a repeater crossbow to fire behind her in flight. And you can see just as she turns dramatically, like cloak sweeps out behind her, just all the bolts fly out of the top of the repeater because it's just a little cradle. It's not like a proper clip. As she turns, and then she fires and it clicks dry. And you just see like a look of panic on her face before she stumbles past you backward and falls into the gorge. You see a limping human just kind of like lumbering along behind the crew with what looked like bites on his face and chest and shoulder, large bites, smear blood along the wall and continue to run. And yeah, basically it's this small band making a desperate flight. Not all of them make it out. You see one, a large, and you can't really make out what it is in this darkness, but like a large 4-legged creature seems to leap onto the back of one of them. You see large 2 front teeth, sort of long and flat, 2 bottom teeth, long and flat, chomp into sort of the fallen man's spine and just pull him back into the shadows. And otherwise, it's just this desperate crew. They torch the bridge behind them, and you can see several of these 4-legged creatures emerge and kind of stand watching the bridge burn and collapse. And they stay there staring longer than you can see the shadowy figures of the people who fled in the distance. And that even after they've disappeared sort of out of sight and out of the range of your psychometry, these creatures still stay there staring, standing stock still for, you get the sense, like a while. I think you had what, 22, 23?
Yep, 22.
22? So again, admittedly a very good roll. These aren't creatures you're tremendously familiar with. They have kind of large torsos. You can almost think visually in terms of the body like an anteater kind of situation. So like kind of a large barrel torso, kind of squat arms and legs. The face comes forward not into the anteater's little snoot though, but into a sort of a larger jaw and kind of skull. But coming to a like almost a dog's muzzle with these large teeth. So just kind of like a general mix of unpleasant
Glad you
things.
described it because I was just thinking a rabbit.
Yeah, no, longer and like with a tail. So
Okay.
like a big heavy body.
And are they about person size, Tom, or what's the mass? Just looking at them.
Yeah, they're a little. Oh no, actually, yeah, they're about they're smaller, a little bit smaller than a human, but not by much. So like the one that
walking a
jumped
black
this
bear sort of scale.
smaller than that, I would say
okay.
like a wild boar, but bigger, a little bigger, a little longer. Like I don't know, I'm trying to think of like an appropriate thing here, like maybe a.
It's okay. You don't have to describe them anymore. We're not going to encounter them. It's fine.
Yeah, that's true. These are just ghosts of memory. I don't know, maybe like a shorter crocodile that's standing like that. It's not. Yeah, they're big enough that if a like a standard humanoid sized person was jumped by one, they would be knocked over. Is I guess probably the most useful thing I can give you.
Like Komodo
not-
dragon scale?
Sorry.
Komodo dragon scale?
Yeah, but like if they stood upright, so like Komodo dragons are down and
Yeah.
kind of crawly. If you like, if they're
Dogify
a
them a little?
transformer and you just pulled those legs under them,
Can you not make them scarier, please?
then that size, yeah.
So they stand upright like people, or they stand on all fours? Just
Stand
so
on
my
all
brain is-
fours.
Great.
So yeah, like an anteater or like a dog or. I mean,
Cool.
again, if you're thinking these legs like little tiny elephant, just like they've got the big thumpy legs under them.
Yeah. Reginald takes a hand off the blood and just turns back to the rest. And you can see he's grown visibly paler. And he says, I don't know necessarily what these are. The closest thing I've ever heard of are gerbils.
Like the little furry guys?
What the hell do you think gerbils are?
That
Like little pets.
Children have them to look after.
No, you fools. Gerbils are terror weapons used by the beastmasters of the Horde. They're the size of half a horse, as bodily strong as a man. 4-legged murder machines with front teeth that'll eat anything, then curl into a ball and sleep on its corpse.
Okay, so that's what you saw.
Something like that. I don't know.
Okay.
I haven't
Honestly,
seen
it's
this
a pretty
before,
good. The gerbil thing's actually very good, fairly accurate.
but- Does someone have paper?
No.
Well, then fuck you. You don't get a drawing.
No,
I-
Juniper definitely has like her old like parchment from scroll days.
Yeah.
She's just used to having a bunch of scrolls.
Well, I mean,
and
you
shit.
also forge. You've got your forging kit. You got options.
Oh, that's
Unless you use
that
them all
makes
with
more
Ginny.
sense. Mrs. Paisley has my paper.
Yeah, Juniper doesn't, but Mrs. Paisley does. Reginald would go over and just sketch out a rough image of the creatures that he saw and say, like, I saw some, but there are more.
Okay,
Fuckers
like a
stood
pack
around
of them.
forever after they ate people, and they dragged people back into the darkness.
Yeah. So
Oh.
to your eyes, Quinny and Juniper, thinking of like gerbils. These things are larger, and obviously, but also hairless. So, in no uncertain terms, if a naked mole rat fucked a gerbil and then it was the size of a kimono dragon on upright, that's kind of what we're dealing with.
Giant mole rat, basically.
Okay. So how do we? Are we going to encounter these things?
Let's
in the mine, then?
plan that we will and hope that we don't.
Okay, so
We're going
Reginald,
to.
how do we
We're going
defeat
to
these?
encounter. We're going to encounter them. You cannot walk into the dark and assume the monsters won't come for you. You have to be ready.
Okay, hey,
Okay,
man,
let's-
this is like step one of a very long trek. Are you going to be able to kind of keep it together here?
Listen, you don't know how many of them are down here. I'm fine fighting people. I can surrender to people. You can't surrender to an army of gerbils.
Well, then
that's
let's
true.
not get into a position where we'll have to not surrender. How do we fight them? What do they have weaknesses? What's
I mean, you've
Well,
seen the
based
picture.
on
I
the sketches,
assume.
yeah, it looks like you want to keep away from the front end
right?
and
And hit them with a hammer. Okay, that's the first part of the plan that sounds pretty good to me. Yeah, if they get in close, we'll hit them with a hammer. We can use magic to scare them out. If they're just animals, then all we have to do is, I don't know, get big, make a lot of noise, and hit them with shit if they get close. Like, they're not going to go to war. They just don't want us to be in their mind, frankly.
okay, so you've kind of worked yourself back around to being calm about this, which
No,
I
I'm
appreciate.
Butthole.
Oh God, okay.
Reginald's the one panicking over in
Got
the
it,
corner. I'm
okay,
just saying his butthole. This all seems like the kind of thing we could pretty much do.
Yeah, we've been in this kind of scenario before with weird underground beasts and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we just go through, and then if they show up, we can, like, flash lights at them and yell a bunch or whatever. I can use thaumaturgy, and then we just murder them if we have to.
The standing still after chasing people off thing leads me to believe there may be an element of control here that we're not taking into account. They may not scare off like wild animals.
Okay, well, I mean, I think we could try the wild animal thing, and then if that doesn't work, we just murder them all or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the deal. We're not actually here to get rid of the gerbil people. We're here to get through this and go to a thing that's more
No,
important.
I'm just saying
so-
if we see a guy who appears to be the gerbil master or whatever, maybe if we kill him, we don't have to worry about the hordes of gerbils for the rest of the trip. That's all I'm
Oh
saying.
my god, you guys have a gerbil master too? Yes, we hunt the gerbil master. Then we can take his gerbils for ourselves and lead them into a car.
All right, there we go. See, we're
Wow.
Excellent.
we're
I'll keep
making
an eye out
lemonade
for
out
the
of
gerbil
lemons
master.
there. Great.
Now you, Quinny, you're good at scouting, so we're gonna need you to find the gerbil master. Juniper,
keep an eye
out for gerbils. Butthole, keep an eye out for gerbils. Huckleberry, you sneak up and kill the gerbil master. Whatever you do, get his gerbil whistle. It's key to leading them if he's like the one from the Horde.
Whistle. Got it. Okay.
Well, look, I don't mean to overstep there, Mr. Brown Barrel, but I believe the whistle was assigned to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm acknowledging the existence of a whistle that controls gerbils.
I'm
Whistle,
just saying.
yeah.
And he pulls the hat down. He's like, "You're not the only sneaky fella in town no more." And he flips his cape out dramatically. And then he looks. He shoots a look at Sheriff Juniper and kind of like we know what's up.
Yes, we'll agree that whoever does
Juniper
their
just thinks,
job,
what an odd hill to die on.
whoever does their job better will be declared the better thief. So you two get to work. You got to steal that whistle or kill the gerbil master or both.
All right. What's the entrance of this cave situation like? Is it caved in? Was it sealed?
No. So you can tell you've got the stone arch. It's got some brush kind of that has been leaned up against it that has in turn been knocked out. At a quick glance and from Reginald's vision, it's pretty clear that like when the campers were here, they put up some light cover just to, keep the zombies out. But it looks like this arch was buried at some point. You're not sure how long ago, but it's been excavated back out. So it's not that the entryway is collapsed. It's more so that there was a stone slab that sealed it that's been cracked and broken.
Okay.
So you can enter directly into this space. It's clear. But around the mouth of it, there's like a lot of kind of debris and stone and everything else. And it's very clear that at some point this entryway was buried back into the side of the hill.
All right. I'll turn to the rest of the party and say, okay, so I'll head in. I'll go in maybe, 100 feet or something like that. See what's going on. I'll come back out, report back, let you know what's up, and then we can head in together, okay?
That sounds good. Use your ring of invisibility so they don't see you. But remember, they can smell if they're fucking gerbils.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, all right. See you in a minute. And I'll activate the ring and head inside.
Okay. So you make your way through the entrance, and there's an unadorned hallway. You can see more sort of traces of blood, as well as drag marks leading inward, which tracks with Reginald's vision. And then this small hallway opens up into a large square chamber. There's a mid-sized square chamber. And
for Quinny, it's large.
Yeah, for Quinny. In it, there are two statues on kind of your left and right of dwarves standing in, wearing very ornate armor. They're kind of crudely carved. So think like if you've seen sort of Viking carvings, where it's all kind of like if like you think like game tokens or anything else, where it's just sort of almost like, okay, like it's going to be the shape of the rock and we'll just carve the character into it, not a fully broken thing. The main defining feature of these two statues is they both have a hand palm out.
The Argonath.
Very visibly carved into them, kind of pointing in the direction that you've entered. The other thing, Quinny, that is of great interest to you is the giant swinging blades in this room that are wedged into the wall to your left and right. There is a large kind of half-moon shaped blade with a cut rope coiled on top of it and around it. And you can tell that these things were definitely set to trigger if anyone entered the way you just did, and seemingly were at some point. But they are currently inactive and kind of wedged in there. At the north end of the room, there is a crack in a wall. It's seemingly a flat, interlocked stone wall. But there is a very noticeable sort of person-sized chunk that's been broken out, seemingly by pickaxes. It's kind of got that rough shape. And beyond it, you can sort of smell on the air the dusty, stale air of sort of an underground sort of that smell you get in like a mine or a catacomb.
Okay. I would like to very cautiously approach this crack and just look through. I don't want to go any further, but I want to see what's through there. I do have devil sight, so I can see in magical and natural darkness up to 120 feet.
Wow.
Yeah, so I can see a good distance.
Looking in, you can see a massive two-clip, basically like a double-stacked crossbow ballista. So sort of a large, almost like turret-sized thing. But it has a broken leg and is pointed at the ceiling. You can tell just, I think, from your thieving that this is very clearly yet another layer of kind of trap death, where in theory anyone opening this wall would immediately get pin-cushioned.
Interesting. Okay. Satisfied with my investigation, I'm going to head back to the group. And as long as nothing stops me from doing that,
You step over several tricky panels in the floor that are not like don't depress anymore, have clearly done their thing.
You're the guy that follows Indiana Jones.
Yeah, that's right. Come back out, and I say, well, our campers here certainly did a good job of tripping like every trap in their path. But the next room I see is empty. I think we can head in. Just watch your step, and it's dark. So those of you that can't see in the dark, we'll have to light some torches, I think.
Butthole put on his eye patch of the owl. He has one eye piece that'll keep him going in the dark. And Reginald,
And Juniper got hers back, too.
Reginald just swings up his hammer, which bursts into flame because he has a flaming warhammer that he uses as a torch. So he's clutching a weapon that is also lighting his way. But obviously not
Farthole's
terribly
legacy lives on.
Yeah.
Long may he reign. Rest in peace, King.
R.I.P. in peace. F.
Requiescat in farthole. Joke just for you and me, Tom. All right.
Yeah, man, it works. It works, baby. Great. So all of you then are heading in?
Yeah.
Quinny's heading
Yeah.
back in, yep.
Oh, yeah.
Great. You make your way into the room with the two sort of sentinel sculptures. I should ask, are you doing anything, or are you moving up to where Quinny got to?
Well, Quinny would walk past the statues and say, I'm not sure what to make of these two just yet. But there's a crack in the wall up ahead that it looks like the party moved through and tripped more traps on the other side.
I think Reginald and Butthole are just trying to take in the space, kind of like following Quinny as it goes, but both are very kind of curious people as they go forwards. Butthole very much with his gut. I think Reginald is straight up trying to math out how any of this would work if there are magical traps that aren't obvious. Like, his paranoia is cranked to 10.
Cool. Yeah, I think can roll me an Arcana check then as Reginald.
Sure. 16.
Yeah. So looking around, Reginald, you're mostly seeing mechanical traps. There doesn't seem to be magical or magically enhanced anything, which isn't to say there isn't, but as someone who has set up elaborate traps, oh God, what's the perpetual motion guy? I'm drawing a complete blank, but like wacky, incredible machine style traps. You've just set up like
the Rube Goldberg.
Thank you, Rube Goldberg.
Oh,
Jesus
yes.
Christ! Like literally, like when a car stalls, that happened to my brain just now. I was like, oh, name I've known since childhood. Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
No, if
Okay.
Reginald had been building this, the trick is you always want to have super nasty magic shit up front, and then you use some mechanical shit in the middle, then super nasty magic again.
To the point of like having made these Rube Goldberg murder machines before. Yeah, it's missing that step, but the thing is you're seeing the things you would replace magic with
Yeah.
if you didn't have it. So, for example, like, do you need swinging blades and a 2-stack crossbow? You sure do if there aren't exploding glyphs. And so I think you're familiar enough with this style of paranoia and the style of trap that you can see what's missing, but you can also see what they've replaced it with.
Yeah, it was competently made. This actually makes sense to him, which I think whenever he can see a method to any sort of plan to murder him, that always calms him down because he's like, okay, there's an intent he can work around here.
Can you roll me a perception, please?
As Reginald?
Yeah.
8.
8. Okay.
Very good at investigation, very good at arcana. Yeah, he has trouble paying attention to the details immediately around him.
Well, I'm sorry. Investigation might actually be the better role here. So you can go with that if you want. Basically, it's like just for as you're taking in the surroundings and trying to figure out what all these things are.
What number did I say I rolled?
You said it was a total of 8.
8. Okay, so that becomes a 17.
Okay.
Jesus.
Because it went from -1 to +9.
The thing that
my
stands out the
God.
most to you, Reginald, as you're making your kind of way through, is the crossbow piece is somewhat impractical. It's the leg is broken, it's pointed in the wrong direction, but looking at it, it's again like a double stacked crossbow with a hell of a lot of bolts. Like it's got 2 full, like heavy clips worth of bolts. And you can see all manner of mechanism to reload, to just auto load bolts. With a 17, it's A, it strikes you as odd. B, you're able to ascertain that it's likely meant to, it certainly doesn't have infinite ammunition, but if you were to just build this thing and then leave it alone for a really long time and you needed to ensure that it would still shoot anyone who came through, it seems like it's got that kind of intent. Like this doesn't feel like an actively monitored weapon.
Okay, yep. All right,
Hey, Reginald and Butthole, are these like Aka traps? Like, do they have the make of your people, or is there like a different civilization making traps down here or something?
Well, this doesn't stand out to me. What about you, Butthole? I don't know. I don't really do traps, so this is kind of a different thing. Well, then I'm afraid I'm your expert, and these are not Aka-based. What I can tell you is I don't think these were actively manned. These appear to have been put in place, and one could say over-engineered from some time ago. Though the fact that the murder gerbils are inside and they're all aiming out is its own concern.
All right. You guys want to head into the next room together, or shall I go on
I
ahead
would like you
myself?
to go first, and
Yeah,
to
I
allow
figured-
us to remain here.
I figured that's what you wanted. Yeah. Everybody else, we cool with that?
Yes.
I'll
be right back.
I guess, yeah.
So there's a doorway into the next room, and this one, unlike the
Wait, this
previous,
is going through the crack, or we through the crack?
you're through the crack. The crossbow was on the other side of the crack. So the idea is
Gotcha.
you break through the wall, and then it just
Shoots
cushions
you,
you. And if
yeah.
you decide to continue to break
Right,
through
right.
that wall, it will just keep shooting you until you stop touching the wall.
Cool.
But this is a small room. This room is clearly built to hold this ballista and nothing else.
All right.
Okay.
So Quinny, kind of moving past that, there is a dwarf-sized door that's quite comfortable for you into a large circular chamber. So stepping through, you're immediately struck by dim light from sort of 4 hanging briars that have some kind of glowing stone in them rather than fire. It's a large circular room, kind of like a cylinder, probably
It goes high up, it goes tall.
Yeah, probably about 2 stories up. So certainly a higher ceiling than you've seen. You can tell that you've been on a slight downslope as you descend into the mines. So it's not like, there's a giant smokestack or some shit you missed outside. Like there's not just a weird silo that you didn't notice. It's all subterranean. Directly ahead of you, there is a doorway sort of like an open doorway or passageway, I should say, further into the space. There are also exits to the left and right, so the east and west. Again, these smaller doors, like what you just went through, on the left and right, directly ahead of you. The one on the north wall is larger. It's sort of twice as wide and twice as tall. The dim light is only in this space, though. Beyond that, with your devil sight, you can see just sort of another sort of squarish room. Can't see much from here, though. In this room, you can see that there is writing on the walls. That's been carved into the walls in fairly fine and careful hand. That seems to be kind of like lining the walls, and that is true of most of it. There is, however, the writing stops at some point, and then there's blank space. In the center of the room, there is another ability. This one is rather odd. It is a rectangular pillar, I guess. So just like a rectangular box. Comes up to probably your chin, so fairly high. And above it, there is a cylindrical object. This one is made of a glass of some sort. It's slightly murky, and in it is a bluish liquid that shimmers a little bit with the same kind of glow as the stones. So
it's like kind of, am I picturing this right? It's like a plinth upon which is sitting this thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So like honestly, like, I guess a plinth is the right term. It's kind of what you would like, just a rectangular box made of stone, and then on top of it is this crystalline cylindrical object.
Gotcha.
And next to the cylindrical object on top of the rectangular plinth, there's an odd upside down stone cone that has been carved into the plinth. And that's about all you can see from here.
Do I see spent traps the way I did it in the last two rooms?
You do not. I think to a thieves' eye, this is likely... This space feels... it's a lot more ornate. It's a lot more cared for. It's clearly been more trafficked. It's seen more traffic. Your guess would be that this and what lays beyond is likely what the traps were protecting, but not trap themselves, because that would impede the nature of whatever this room is for.
Okay. I'll come back and say, looks like the next room is trap free as far as I can tell, and there's a bunch of shit going on. You got to come in and see this. There's some writing, there's liquids on pedestals. I don't know what to make of all of it. And there's more than one doorway too, so now we got to make a choice. Anyway, come on.
Yep, Butthole and Reginald will follow. So Goblin Jr., the whole gang.
Juniper's right there with them.
Looking at the writing on the wall in this new room, Tom, and the number of dwarven artifacts and dwarf-sized doors that have appeared, Butthole speaks and can read Dwarvish. Is the writing on the wall
very
Dwarvish?
helpful in this particular instance? Yes, it absolutely is. So in the light cast from Reginald's hammer, as well as with your eyepiece, in the dim light of the room, you can read names. And you can tell that it is names from top to bottom. Yep.
All right, so it appears that this is some kind of memorial, maybe? It's all names. Everything top to bottom is all names. So this is made for somebody, and then we get this water thing. Looking at it from his religious bent, Butthole's kind of history with the ceremony and things like that, does any of this stand out as having a ritual significance to him? Can he put together what he thinks this space is for?
You can roll me a religion check if you want, and we can, or an insight, I guess, if we're going with your kind of
19.
19. Yeah, so this definitely feels like a memorial space. You're correct. From a religious perspective, the pedestal and the the sort of glass cylinder don't signify anything particularly to you, aside from if you were to build this Moonhammer today, this is where you would put a hammer or a statue of Moonhammer. Otherwise, there is a solemnity to this room. It does feel austere. The dim light doesn't seem to be things that have burned down, but rather a respectful choice. And I think, thinking of it in religious terms, the fact that there is blank wall space seems to suggest intent that there will be more names.
All right, so this, if I was to guess, this is starting to feel like we're breaking into a tomb instead of a mine, which is weird. We've got a lot of names. We've got this thing which has some sort of emotional significance, but nothing arcane. I'm not seeing any symbols from a religion I recognize, but clearly they thought there were going to be maybe more, because the writing stops.
More
Could this have been
for
people
what,
who
though?
died in the mine?
I mean, it could be,
Like
but it's written
workers?
it's written in Dwarvish, which is not traditionally like a Ka's language.
Why do you write names on a wall anywhere? Why do you do that?
To remember people, usually when
Remembering
they're
people,
gone, or to
honoring
commemorate
people
or
who are-
honor them. But that's less common. Usually give them like medals and shit.
Yeah, okay. Okay. So why protect a tomb this intensely? You see that stuff that was built out there?
Well, I think if you had gerbils who were murderers, you wouldn't need the traps. So I feel like one of these may have led to the other at some point. Like, let's say you're building... Have you guys ever seen the stage play Lord of the Rings? Like,
No,
let's say...
you have been to all of these plays, and I have never gone to a play with you. Well, we've never gone to see a show.
Honestly, I feel like
I
this is...
saw it on my journey to when I was coming to see
When you're going-
see y'all.
Everyone's
There
going to
and
see
back again.
shows. I
Yeah.
ain't seen a show once.
Okay, well, we're going to make a rule that when we take over a Ka and we have our own country, we're going to have to start bringing the tours in. Like, I'm talking not just
All right.
the off-Broadway tours.
Well, then
I
don't
want
tell
the
me about
straight
Lord
up-
of the Rings then, because I don't want it spoiled for me.
Broadway,
Okay,
of course, being the famous Waterdeep street where all the theaters are.
Exactly. All right, so just cover your ears, Quinny, and I'll tell everyone else
fine.
the thing that this could be like. He covers his ears, so he's not getting any of this information. So I mean, it's hilarious because I'm now saying this to the person who's seen the play. But anyways, Lord of the Rings, the dwarves dig this big fucking mine, and then it turns
Yes.
out there's a monster in it, and then everything goes bad. What we've got here is some sort of fancy dwarven thing that we know becomes a mine eventually, and a bunch of murder gerbils. It feels like they may have dug a hole and then discovered monsters.
Right. That makes
we-
perfect sense. It's like, yeah, the dwarves mined this originally.
I mean, it does math out to me, so maybe we should tell Quinny like it's a news story that we came up with. It'll spoil things, but he won't know. Okay, yes, perfect.
Hands off of ears. So, what's up with the blue liquid?
All right, so here's our theory. There were dwarves who were making a fancy thing here or something, and then they dug too deep and found monsters. Oh no, it's a tragedy.
Okay. A little note about, oh no, it's a tragedy. Seems like it might be the plot to a play.
Listen, for a
But
guy
anyway.
who's never seen a play, you seem to be making a lot of guesses. What I'm telling you is, this is our guess about what's happening here.
All right.
I feel like it's a tragedy when your people are eaten by gerbils and you lose everything.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Given that
Blue.
the dwarves aren't here anymore.
Blue stuff? Anything? I don't really want to touch it.
I don't want to drink it.
Okay, so you're willing to touch it?
Yeah, sure.
All right, go over there.
He's going to go over and just touch the container, Tom. Does anything happen?
No, as you tap it, like the liquid responds as liquid do. It's there is the viscosity isn't what you'd expect from water, which kind of tracks with the fact that it's got this luminescence to it. So it's certainly like as you tap it, it responds, but almost a little bit slower, as though there's something else in it. But other than that, like there's no big reaction.
There's no grim psychometry triggers or anything. It's not dark.
Not at all.
Well, it's not water, but I don't know anything else about it. Also, it's not helping us get to a car.
Yeah, all right.
I think there's probably some cultural dwarvish things that none of us understand or are aware of.
Yeah, maybe
It
it'll
seems
make
to
more
fit
sense
this room,
later.
so perhaps
should
we
we-
should move on.
Should we take a vial of it just in case it's something that'll help us with gerbils?
Sure. Yeah, go for it, man.
Yeah,
Anyone
but
see that stage play of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince?
All right. So, in looking at it, there does seem to be a tap, like a spigot, but it is stone. It is not functional. So, in order to get any of this liquid out, you'll need to break it.
oh, it turns out we have to break it to get the stuff out. I don't want to just go break somebody's tomb.
If I was
like
here
that.
to raid the tomb, I'd be more about it, but we're really just passing through. So, all right, if it's important, we'll come back for it. You want to check these other doors, or you want to try this big major door in the middle here? Seems to indicate the next part.
Okay, well, I don't understand puzzles, so I can pray on it, but I feel like everyone's going to get mad. So maybe Quinny and Reginald, as the two smart people, can math this out.
All right, I kind of want to see what's behind these other doors before moving on.
I don't like leaving things that have not been searched behind me. Yes, please, let's check those doors.
All right, let's take the one on the left, and I want to go to this door, Tom.
Sure. So, you go to the door. It is a stone door, as you'd expect. That said, it slides, and the tracks that it's on have been meticulously carved. Like it's still heavy, but it slides very easily out of the way. It's just, it's like pushing something heavy on wheels. It's like, oh, okay, it still slides just fine. For this door in particular, you kind of like crank it open, and you're immediately hit with just that smell of stale air. Inside, sure enough, you can see sort of like a large rectangular room with a lower ceiling than the one you were just in, but with stone caskets sort of lining the wall. So they're not inset into the wall. They're on the ground, but there's essentially 4 rows of these caskets. And again, it's a deep enough room that there are there's like 4 columns and then a number of rows deep. On the left and right wall, you can see there are caved in entrances similar to the one you just came through. You can actually see one of the stone doors, like the one you just rolled out of the way, cracked and kind of having slid forward. The tombs are undisturbed, and the 2 other ways in and out of this room seem to have collapsed.
All right, well, Quinny,
Yeah.
do you want to open up one of those caskets and see if there's anything inside we might want to take that could make us more powerful and or dangerous?
Yeah.
Well, then, I think it's time for you and I to rob some graves like heroes. And Reginald is here to assist you trying to open those. He warns you that he thinks there may be traps in these if they've trapped other stuff, but he just needs you to crack one open.
Yeah, I've got a crowbar, but I want to start by examining the closest casket.
Sure. So
traps.
they aren't carved out of the floor. They've been placed on the floor. They're very simple. They're just like rectangular caskets. There is writing chiseled in a singular line, kind of down the center. You can tell probably from Butthole transcribing stuff and everything else. It's clear that the name has been written in kind of a vertical column. And then there is a symbol that is common to all of them. That is like a rune that has been carved at the sort of the top. So it's like a large sort of circular indentation with a rune carved into it, and then the column of name. Otherwise, there's no clasps or anything. It's literally just like a stone slab on top of a stone box.
Yeah, and
everything clicks together real nice, but there's
yeah, and no loot or anything like that.
Did you? My understanding was you were just examining the outside. You
Sorry,
want to push,
sorry. I thought
push it
you would
open?
talk us through opening it. Yes, if everything looks fine, yeah, let's proceed to opening it.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh, it's full of Balrogs. No, you
Close it.
you push the slab off, and it does slide off. It's not wedged on there or anything. And again, you're just hit with that stale smell of decay. Inside, there is the body of a dwarf that's been wrapped in a shroud. So just sort of that shape. Arms kind of folded over it, sort of mummy style. And inside, you see just some there's a dented tin cup with the same sigil etched into it that you saw on the top. There is some rotting, just a bundle of rotting papers in a corner. There seems to be a set of dice of sort of well used bone dice, and a rusted pickaxe kind of placed over the feet. So not like holding it like a war axe, just kind of like rested across the feet. That said, this pickaxe looks ancient, like very, very old, and fairly chipped and busted.
Reginald has
Reginald.
proficiency in dice. How well made are these dice?
Not tremendously well made, honestly. They're just very well used.
Fair enough. Reginald would reach out to see if he could get anything off of this body in terms of grim psychometry to find out how they died. Like, was it a gerbil-related attack, or did they just die in like a mine or at work?
Yeah, give
or old age?
me a history check. Because your psychometry lasts like an hour, right? It's not a specific.
Psychometry is just in an instant. He can try to sense things
cool.
if it's a
Cool.
if it's a dark place or a grim thing, and then he does better the darker the history is. That is a nat 20.
Nat 20.
Ooh.
Wow. So interestingly, even with a nat 20, it's hard to pull an image off this. You see this dwarf presumably, and he's leaning one hand against a wall, and coughing very deeply and in a way that's so ragged that because you can't really hear it, but you can see his body shuddering with it. And kind of through the grim darkness of these sort of clouded images, you see another dwarf approach with one of these cones, like you saw in the main room, and hand it to him. And he drinks the fluid inside and just kind of nods, but then coughs a couple more times. And you actually see him sink to his knees. And it's hard. You're having a hard time pulling this image, but you see him kind of continue to cough, and just eventually kind of slide down this wall and fall over. And you see a number of other dwarves kind of rush over, and you can see one of them sort of calling for help. But there's not a gerbil in sight.
Okay, looks like this guy died of illness. Also, this is a tomb for poor people, so robbing them is pointless.
Yeah, I
here's the
gathered
thing.
that part.
This guy was sick, and he died. And they fed him some of that blue, not water crap, and then he died. So don't drink the blue, not water crap. It's either a health potion that doesn't work, or it's some sort of you got sick and now you're
Poison.
dead potion. Yeah, poison.
Yeah.
I think that's the more technical term.
All right. So a poison
Possibly.
water cooler is what it looks like.
Well, he was coughing like a bastard before he went down, so this person was sick, so that is possibly related. All I'm saying is natural causes, no gerbils, and no money.
All right, let's check room number 2.
All right. So, abandoning this room, you make your way across. This time, the door is open a crack, like about a foot. And I think Reginald, as soon as you touch it, you kind of get struck. You feel a little ill, and your kind of psychometry senses start tingling. Can you roll me a history, please?
That is, oh man, 27.
27. You are struck rather firmly by the image of hands pulling on this door, but they're not the hands of these campers. They seem to be darkened, vaguely bony hands pulling from the inside, having wedged this door open. And it's not just one pair of hands. It seems to be several grasping, sort of almost desperate hands that have pulled this door open. And sure enough, kind of with this image in your mind, you're able to see scuff marks on the walls. And it's very clear that a lot of something forced its way out of this room.
And he just grabs Quinny by the back of the collar before Quinny goes in through the gap, and he's like, "This feels like a zombie room to me. There was a shitload of something undead, and it came out of this door, and I do not know where it is."
All right. Good catch. I'm going to tag you out and say the cleric and paladin should maybe take a look at this door then, huh?
I agree. Someone who's not us should go in there.
Yeah, all right.
Butthole just approaches. "Okay, so I heard that there's a thing over here you guys don't want to rob, so I should probably go in and look, right?"
Yeah, you might be dealing with a zombie situation. You might benefit from a series of protective auras, a la Juniper
Yeah, no,
here
that's
as well.
fine. I've got my bag of oak leaves. I'm ready to turn them away. It's great.
Super.
Alrighty, so
Have at
Juniper,
it.
you lead the way. I'll go with you, and you guys stay here in case gerbils show up.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Great. So you push the door a little bit open, further open, in order to allow both of you to pass through. And you enter to find a carbon copy of the room that Quinny and Reginald were just in. Except this one has one entryway that is, or sorry, one entryway that's collapsed, one that isn't, leading into another chamber. And a number, again, like columns and rows of these coffins. The main difference being that all of the lids have been shattered and broken, and all of the bodies are gone.
Okay, this looks like zombies. Also, Juniper, I'm just going to think a little bit ahead. If the other room across the other side was full of, I think I heard the corpses of poor people get yelled at some point, we should go and smash their heads in.
I could not agree more.
So we just both turn and walk out of this room saying nothing.
Yeah, your queen's like, "You
Across
find
the
anything?
space.
Hey, what the fuck?" And just like
Got a job
pass
to
them.
do. Yeah, and then you just hear us mangling corpses from the central room.
Look, it's a grim job, but fool me several times, zombies. Shame on us. And so, Butthole and Juniper, you go about your grim but
Juniper's
necessary.
like apologizing as she's doing this. Like, so sorry has to be done. So sorry has to be done.
Yeah,
like,
but
no
Butthole's-
disrespect. No disrespect.
Butthole's following Juniper and like blessing the pieces of the corpses that are left and like putting the lids back on. They're both really trying to do this as classy as possible.
It's not about who you were in life. It's who you may become in death. I'm so sorry.
We have a lot of dwarf friends. He closes the lids.
And so, incredibly apologetically, you make sure that none of these dwarves rise again as you commit the most polite desecration of a tomb I think I've ever heard. If only everyone was so considerate.
This episode of Dum-Dums and Dragons features the voices of Ryan LaPlante at the Ryan LaPlante on Twitter, Tyler Hewitt at Tyler_Hewitt on Twitter, Laura Hamstra at EL Hamstring on Twitter, and our DM Tom McGee at McGeeTD on Twitter. This episode's sound was edited and mixed by Laura Hamstra, and Dum-Dums and Dragons artwork is by Del Borovic, who can be found at delborovic.com. Our theme songs are And Now for That Massive Coronary and Skipping Through the Orchestra Pit Part 1 by Peter Gresser, and our ad music is No Control and Chiefs by Jazzar, JAHZZAR, all available at freemusicarchive.org. When it comes to Dum-Dums and Dice, you can visit our website at dumdumdice.com. Our Twitter and Instagram are at dumdumdice, and on Facebook at facebook.com/dumdumdice. But most importantly, we've got merchandise at redbubble.com/people/dumdumdice, or you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/dumdumdice. That's DUMBDICE. And tune in next week for more Dum-Dums and Dragons. Dum-Dums and Dice has to give a special thank you to the supreme beings of our Patreon at this time. The Half-Blind Prophet, Christopher Little, Sue One, George Dolby, Richard Cranium, Gavin and Abby McDonald, Logan, Fire Unfriendly, Grandma Likes D&D, Alan, Stabby Stranger, Glitch Trick, Roman Brown, Spot Allen, Flynn1138, Alarain Okapi, OMG It's Big Nick, D&D and Things, Norma Byers, Schrodinger's Pepper, Guy Edwards, Flea Unit, Madre de Gatos, Lady Maiden, Melissa Rain, and Jill and Noel LaPlante. If you want your name to be added to this list, you can join our Patreon too at patreon.com/dumdumdice. Thanks to them, and a little bit of thanks to you.